So you might want to have, in addition to your bolsters, a strap handy. And we'll start sitting comfortably. So whether that's cross-legged or whatever that is for you, so that you can allow the spine to be long and not forcing it, but relaxed. Good. And we'll just start to slow down our breath. So eyes soft or closed, and we'll just begin to slow down and lengthen our breathing, allowing everything to relax inside. It's always interesting to notice the breath at the beginning before yin, and then noticing it, how it's changed by the end, right? It's quite different. So maybe letting out some sound if you want to help release and let go. Oh, anything that wants to come out. And by lengthening our exhale, so the inhale tends to be shorter than the exhale. And by lengthening our exhale, we really bring our parasympathetic nervous system into play, right? Bring that on board. So allowing a longer exhale. Then we can bring our fingertips to our heart and just do a gentle tapping as we continue to breathe, and kind of let our attention rest on our breath. So stimulation of our immune system and our heart. And then we'll bring our hands up to our scalp and massage a little bit around the scalp, waking up our brain and all the channels that run through the scalp, waking up our head in general. Yeah. We can bring our hands to our ears and do a little massage there. A little pulling and squeezing all over around the ears. Unroll. We can put our fingers inside the ears and gently pull down, hold, and take a breath. Notice how everything sort of relaxes. Do that. Vagus nerve comes in. Great. And then we'll take our arms out and we'll move our spine a little bit. So letting the arms reach forward, pulling the spine back, and then bringing our arms back and kind of squeezing a little bit and lifting the heart. Right? Back and forth, flapping our wings. Arching and rounding the spine. A little stretch in our back. And then go ahead and let your arms come down by your side. And we're going to start in straddles. So you might find your straddle won't be quite as wide at the beginning, and you can widen it as you go, but make sure the pelvis is upright, right? So we want to make sure the pelvis is not tilted back. And if it is, be sure and sit on some kind of bolstering, right? Just kind of bolster the hips a little bit. So we'll turn towards our right leg to start with, and just start to come forward, making sure the sits bones stay all the way down, right? And just relaxing, starting to relax over this leg. coming to our edge, finding our edge here to begin with, and relaxing and breathing. Of course, anytime you want to change that straddle, we'll always do that. If you want to bring a bolster underneath somewhere or on top of your leg, help you relax into the stretch. If it's comfortable, we let our back round all the way and let our head hang. Of course, we get that nice stretch through the neck and the spine, a little decompressing of the vertebra. Trying to round our spine. There's a lot of channels that are stretched in this pose, right? Ones that run all through the inside, back of the leg, inside, outside, and through our side body, and nice stretch for that lateral hip. Side on the left side. Just letting go to the gravitational pull, right? That brings us toward our leg without forcing it. Anytime we want to come out of a pose or do a different pose than the one we're doing, feel free to do something else or modify. Once we feel that sort of letting go into this pose, we can always add a little more stretch if we want to face forward and bring our left arm into it, right? Can increase that stretch, optional or not. And you can always let the arm come back, kind of come back down anytime it needs to. Lifting the arm like this adds a little more yang. So feel like doing that. Otherwise, it's quite yin just to relax over the leg. Sometimes it's more comfortable for the bottom arm to be in front of the leg, on top of the leg, or behind the leg. So if we are reaching our left arm overhead, we might find what works for us with that bottom arm. Also reach the left hand a little bit more toward the foot as we deepen into the stretch. Try to make sure the left sits bones doesn't start to come off the ground. Okay, so let's slowly walk ourselves back to sleep. Do a little shaking of your legs. We'll do a little transition. So let's bring our legs together. And the right leg with the left leg straight, we'll take that right leg across, the foot on the ground like that, and this left hand back. This is called Mongoose. And then just bring your right arm pressing into that right leg and twist and look back. So you can adjust your left hand wherever it wants to go, however far out. Just kind of gently pressing against our right leg, taking a couple breaths. And then coming back around to our straddles. We can bring that leg around and find the straddle that wants to happen here. And we'll turn toward our left leg. Make sure the sits bones are rooted. Just relax forward over that leg. If you want a pillow or a bolster, of course, kind of let go into the stretch and be supported. One side might be different than the other, as it is in my case. Anyway, quite different. Of course, changing the straddle anytime you feel like you can use a little more stretch in the inner thigh or a little less where the knees might be too much stretch for the knees inside there. You can change the straddle for that. Finding what works on this side. So with yin, we always want to listen to our body. Listen to what the need is in this moment instead of maybe what we think it is. What we can tend to think about what we did last time, what we should be able to do. Then as we get a little deeper into the stretch and start to feel our body relax, we might want to add a little more stretch. Bringing our right arm up, facing forward, taking the arm over if that feels right for you, for however long it wants to stay there. Always float back down. Can be a little bit tricky for the low back, which is why we want to make sure our pelvis isn't tilting back. in a couple of days, we're having a full moon again. Seems like we just had a full moon. This is the second out of 4 super full moons this year. And super full moons just means that it's closer to the earth, which means the moon will have a stronger pull on the tides, tectonic plates in the earth, which means it'll have a stronger pull on our bodies and our emotions, because our bodies are largely made of water, blood, water, fluids. So we'll feel it probably pretty strongly. You might already be feeling it. It's a full moon in Aquarius. On Tuesday. Of course, Aquarius, that sign of community, innovation, and the higher mind or the intellect. So there's many communities forming on the planet right now that are sort of kind of at the grassroots level. There's a lot of innovative things that are being done that you don't hear about in the news, of course, or at least not very often. But there's a lot going on under the surface. As well as a lot of protests that are going on pretty much all over the world that you won't see in the news, happening everywhere. And that is also the uprising that's going to come with Aquarius and the Aquarian age. People are not going to stand for the status quo or being the top-down government anymore. So let's go ahead and start to slowly come up from there. So really coming out of it slowly. Right, always coming out of our pose slowly. And then we might lean back and bring our legs together. And we'll cross or straighten the right leg and cross the left leg. Let's see, I'll go this direction. Cross the left leg so the foot's on the ground, like that. And this right arm back. And we can take a little twist as we press into that left leg. Mongoose. Just take a few breaths here. Right, and then we'll put ourselves back around to face forward with our, of course, feel free to flap your legs around or shake them or, right, give them a little movement. But we'll extend our legs forward and come into caterpillar for a little while. Lift the sits bones, or if you need to sit on a bolster, forward fold over the legs. Might be able to grab your feet and gently pull back if that feels good to you, or maybe put a pillow on top of your legs. You can also flatten the back if that feels better than rounding the back. So opposite this full moon in Aquarius is the sun in Leo. So the sun is always opposite the moon at the full moon, of course, and the Leo is the sign of the heart. So Aquarius is the sign of the head. Leo is the sign of the heart. And you could say this is about head versus heart, or how to align our head with our heart. Might be some back and forth there. Coming into a more heart-centered way of being. The head thinks and operates in terms of time and space, whereas the heart operates out of our connection to our source, right? Whatever you want to call that, and love, and the quantum field. So it can be a bit of a balance between the head and the heart. Balancing act or a push-pull. In Cherokee, there's a word, or actually it's two words, Shanteista. And Shanteista translates to the eye of the heart that sees what is. I think it's beautiful. Shanteista. We have an eye in our mind, our third eye, it's often called, right? Between the brow, forehead, behind that point. And we also have the eye of the heart. Okay, so we'll go ahead and slowly come up from there. We can lean back on our hands. We move the legs around and we can bring our feet in towards our hips. If you want to lift the hips up and down a few times. And then we'll come on to our belly. I'm going to adjust my mat a little bit, but come into, let's start with infant pose, where we bring our arms by our side and lift up like locust in yang yoga, right? So just kind of engaging our whole backside as we reach back and lift up, roll the shoulders back. Always good for our spine to do this weight bearing on the spine. And then we can let our elbows come underneath the shoulders and come into Sphinx. Just finding how far the elbows be apart, ahead of us. Maybe rock the body a little bit. You might want to look up and kind of get a stretch in the front of our neck and a little compression in the back of the neck if that feels comfortable for you. Kind of counterpose to the forward folding. get a little bit of compression in the back of the neck. Look up once in a while. We can also lift our feet if we want to add a little more compression and stretch there in the lumbar and the front of the thighs. So good for our kidneys and our kidney meridian, as well as our low back in general. Good for the lumbar spine. Good to go back and forth between the forward fold and the back bend. It's good for the sacrum, which is why we do it. A lot of forward folding and then coming to Sphinx and Seal. Our sacrum in top form. The sign of Aquarius, is about frequency. And our universe operates on that basis, frequency. Everything is energy. Discovered everything is energy. Nothing ever dies. Energy doesn't die. It just transforms to another level, either higher or lower. So it can be sometimes a challenge to adjust to frequencies that are, I could say, increasing or speeding up in the world as they are. Be that sort of back and forth or up and down feeling, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or going up and then falling back down, or just the rebalancing and the balancing that has to happen to get used to these frequencies as they increase on the planet, going through another part of the galaxy where the frequencies are going to be different than what they've been. The solar system is. So there's quite a bit of adjustment that's taking place. But we have time. Okay, so let's take a little break in half frog. You want to slide your left knee up and then take your right arm and slide it underneath your left arm. You can add a little shoulder stretch and just lay down on that left hand, maybe like that. Just shoulder stretch as well. Okay, and then we can slide that left leg back down and slide our right arm back through, come back into Sphinx or Seal, or Sphinx with maybe a folded up blanket underneath the arms for a little more back bend. If you like, you can come into a higher version of Seal where the pelvis is lifted off the ground, kind of like an up dog, or you can come to the version with the pelvis on the ground, which is sort of like a baby cobra, I call it. So whatever feels good to your body, coming in and out of any of the variations that we want to of all of these poses, right? All these different variations. For us, you can also put a pillow underneath the pelvis for support. Seal if you want. Besides getting that nourishment for our kidney and our low back, knees and low back, we also, of course, get the strengthening of our shoulders and arms and engage those upper body meridians that run through our shoulders and arms and chest. We're going back and forth between the frequencies and making the adjustments as we go through life, as we live our life. Takes a lot of, I find it takes a lot of focus, requires focus and attention. Sometimes it's easily get caught off guard and feel like we've fallen off into an abyss, or we've taken more than 2 steps back. Things, because basically stuff comes up, right? Stuff is coming up. But the good news is it's coming up because it's leaving. It's all going away. There are definitely challenging times that we're in. May you live in interesting times, right? As the Chinese saying. So if you are up in Seal, you might start to make your way down to Sphinx gradually. Then we'll do the little half frog on the right and draw our left arm underneath the right arm. Okay, so we can go ahead and slide the right leg back down and draw the arm back out. Make our way up to our all fours. Or if that doesn't work for you, you can maybe come into another position to move your spine. And we'll just very gently move our spine here. So moving slowly and gently, grounding the back, curling the tailbone under. You might like to press your hips back towards your heels. And then come up and come into an arch. The spine slowly easy out of those two extremes of forward folding and back bending. Circle our hips and our body and just kind of let everything spiral around and go where it wants to. Letting everything release. Making sure we go in both directions. And then we'll have a sit back into our child's pose, a nice nourishing pose to a little compression into our knees, a little stretch to the sacrum. Yeah. Maybe you like your knees together, maybe you like them apart, feet together or feet apart. If it is challenging to get the hips back to the heels, we want to make sure that our head is supported on the ground so we're comfortable, whether that's on your hands or on pillow or something. Child's pose is a nice stimulation of the spleen and the stomach channels. And at the same time, it stretches our kidney and liver channels, as well as giving that good stretch through the sacrum, right? Compression into the knees and a stretch in the ankles. I consider child's pose and butterfly, which are very similar poses, really, only in different positions when you think about it, as being such good medicine for stretching the low back, particularly if you have like a tight low back or just feeling like you've been standing too long and you're feeling tension in the hips or something like that. It's a really nice way to release the butterfly pose and the child's pose. It's a way to get that stretch and release through the low back and hip area. Okay, so we can start to come up there, or if you are on your back and you're unhappy baby, perhaps you can just hug your knees into your chest. We're going to come onto our back and hug the knees into the chest. If you want to bring bolsters, pillows over to the left side of your body. Let's relax on the mat here. And we can curl into a ball, just lift the head and pull the legs in towards our head, head towards our legs, their knees. Go ahead and let the head and shoulders relax. And we'll put our left foot on the ground. And let's curl up toward our right knee. And this is where you may want to use a strap. So you can put a strap around your left foot or just use your hands, right? We'll lift that up, lie down and come into a supine dragon or half happy baby. We can slide our left leg straight down the mat. We're lunging on our back. Just pulling the knee down toward the ground without pulling our body over to the right. Staying centered. A good inner stretch for our inner thigh and groin area, as well as that stretch through the hip flexors and thigh of our straight leg. To the little compression in that hip as well. Really stretching that left leg long will also help with that stretch through the hip flexors, front of our thigh. And then we'll straighten that right leg. So if you have a strap, of course, you're holding onto it. If you're using your hands, you might be holding onto your thigh or someplace. And then we're going to open our left knee out to the side, slide our foot towards our hip, right? So the left knee is open. Just slide that foot in as far as it wants to go. Then we're going to guide our leg across our body. If you can, keep it relatively straight for that really good hip stretch, but if you need to bend it, feel free to do so or bend it a little bit. And we'll extend our right arm out from our shoulder to come into a twist. So if possible, that right leg straight for part of the time, really getting into that right hip and the IT band. Just sure our right shoulder's on the ground. Of course, if this causes any tingling or numbness or pain, make sure you bend your leg and find a comfortable twist with your knee bent. Just listening to our body here. quite a deep, intense hip stretch, especially if you're holding the strap with your legs straight. Of course, the leg might want to lower down a little bit so that you can get it straighter. You can always explore that for yourself as far as that hip stretch, right? Just wherever your leg wants to be here. And eventually letting the knee bend and letting the leg relax, that twist. Okay, so we'll start to slowly come out of the twist. You might just use your strap or your hand to pull the knee back up, centering our body and bringing both legs in. If you have bolstering, you can move it to the other side. And hug our knees. And then we'll bring our right foot onto the ground, curl up to that left knee. If you want to use a strap, put it around the foot. And come into our supine dragon, half happy baby. Sliding the right leg down. So pulling our knee toward the ground as we stretch our right leg. Making sure we don't pull our body off balance here, just staying centered. And we'll straighten that leg to the ceiling. I'm going to move my body over. And we can open our right knee out to the side, slide our right foot towards our hips. And we might need to adjust our hips a little bit to guide that leg across the body and extend our left arm out from our shoulder. Of course, your leg can be as straight or as bent as you need. Or on this side, it might be different. And maybe staying in that twist with the leg straight for a while, unless there's any kind of tingling or pain, and then you can. It's going to be not very comfortable because, of course, it's a very deep stretch in the hip and the IT band and all through the outer leg. So just doing whatever feels right for you, letting the knee bend when it needs to, and maybe the leg lower down, or finding what works for your body on this side. And breathe, and make sure your breathing is not labored or having trouble. Otherwise, we take that as a sign to back off a little bit out of that particular variation. The stretch with the leg straight, of course, really gets into the sciatic nerve channel, which is why we need to make sure that we're careful not to let any tingling or numbing sensations happen. We don't want to block that channel, right? We do want it to be stretched if possible. So let the knee bend when it needs to. Just let your body relax in the twist. Letting that twist massage our internal organs here. Reset, calibrating our nervous system and balancing our spine. Well as letting our body fully relax, which it tends to do in the twist. So you can stay in the twist a little longer if you like. Continue to relax there, or come onto your back and take a moment to maybe hug your knees or do whatever feels good to your body to kind of balance out and relax it. Maybe stir your knees, legs around, just anything that feels good to our body. And we'll just take a moment to integrate. So getting into whatever position feels comfortable and relaxed that you want to be in, taking a moment to just breathe and feel. Notice how we feel. Notice our breath. Letting the energy circulate through the channels as we breathe. Noticing how much more relaxed our breath might be. Just giving thanks to our body for being there for us, giving thanks to our breath, giving thanks to Gaia, to the Mother, for being there for us. And remembering that this is a time of balance of the head and the heart. Shante Ista, the eye of the heart and the eye of the mind. Right? Together. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to go ahead and get up slowly or continue to relax on your back.